growth in dentistry for me is not just on one single bottom line or any particular role. It's really growth at every level. So if you look at it from somebody working at the front desk, somebody that is trying to coordinate operations across 20 locations, the patient that's sitting in your chair, right? It goes on every single level. And when we're focusing on the DSO segment specifically, we got to keep that in mind so that we're allowing for everybody to grow at every single level.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. I am Katie Polson, and if this is your first time listening, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. My voice doesn't normally sound like this, but I was, lucky enough to finally have succumbed to COVID. And so I will not make you listen to this Phoebe raspy voice for the entire half an hour. I've got a fabulous sub-in. Steve Jensen is going to take over for me here in a little bit, but I just want to do quick updates and a little intro to get us started. For those of you that are first-time listeners, we talk about actionable advice in 30 minutes on what you can do to help your practice. And today we're talking about for DSOs, automation and analytics, and what's new in that space, especially here at Dental Intelligence. And other shows, we have some deep dive episodes that you won't want to miss. There's and then also some more information on DSOs if that's your thing. So feel free to go check out the rest of the show. We've got some great information there for you. If you're a fan of Facebook, please join us there at our Facebook Dental Intelligence podcast community. We have a lot of like-minded data nerds that come and learn about automation and how to improve your practice. If you're not a current customer of Dental Intelligence and you want to be one, you can go to get.dentalintel.com/podcast to get $50 when you complete a demo. So that's a special offer for our listeners, and that information will be also in our show notes. And lastly, a fun little offer that we're doing for the next couple of weeks. Those of you that are listeners of podcasts or in dental podcasts, you might be familiar with the conference Voices of Dentistry. Dental Intelligence Week are lucky enough to be one of the sponsors there. And they have given us some free tickets for attendees to want to go. So I'm going to give those to the first couple people that email me at kpolson, Poulsen, at dentalintel.com. You can just email me. I'll put that also in the show notes as well. It's an awesome conference. If you've never been, it's unlike any other conference I've really been to. You can get continuing education. You can have some great connecting opportunities and also meet and talk to the people that you possibly listen to a lot on a regular basis. So it's a really fun conference. With that being said, I will have Steve take over here and introduce our great guest.
All right. We are, like Katie said, I'm taking over today with her sore throat, but excited to spend some time here with Elliott Walker. He is our principal product owner, manager. I'm still learning product titles. And Elliott has been in the industry for how many years, Elliott?
About 15.
Yeah, so a long time. He has been around the block and spent a lot of time in his career studying dental practices, understanding everything from operations to insurance, and comes to us with a lot of experience from Henry Schein. So excited to have you. Anything you want to add, Elliott?
No, just I've been working with DSOs for a very long time, and it's something very near and dear to my heart. I love the industry. A lot of energy out there, a lot of problems to solve, and that's what I like doing. So It's great. It works out, and just super happy to be here.
Sweet. Well, today the focus of today, we want to understand more what is Dental Intel's focus on product moving forward. Obviously, we're seeing big trends in the industry towards consolidation. I just read this last week, Dykema posted again the results for this most recent quarter, and those smaller transactions are happening at the same volume. So even as we move into a recession, we're seeing transaction volume consistently happening. Maybe some of like the big monster deals are a little quiet right now, but in the DSO space, consistently seeing that type of trend. So we're curious with that trend towards consolidation. We're seeing a lot of services become centralized. I've got some questions I'll ask today, and we'll just kind of talk through what we're seeing in the industry and then what we're doing at Dental Intel to help with some of that. So first question, I'll just read it verbatim. What's the job to be done when it comes to automation, analytics, and patient communication when it comes to DSO?
Well, it's funny because it's not just one job, right? There are actually a lot of
jobs to be done.
There's so many jobs, especially the DSO level. It's interesting because with your solo practice, you don't have a lot of the same complexities that you have with a DSO. With a DSO, you have different responsibilities and roles that exist that don't exist inside the practice. And so,
like what, for example, what exists?
Great question. So you're not going to have usually your executives. You're not going to have your directors, your regional managers, coaches, and things like that that are on staff. You're outsourcing a lot of the things that you need to have done, like marketing and things like that. And depending on the size of the DSO, it gets even more fun, right? Because you have, you mentioned some of that emerging market, where that market is going right now. And so with that, you're going to have different situations even with those. Some of them might actually start off with a few locations and eventually end up with the director of operations. They get out to 15, 20 locations, they might actually add a COO. Getting out to 25 to 30 might have like a CFO. So it really depends on the range of DSOs, right? And as the audience can attest to this, it really comes down to the more people you have, the more jobs you have to do. And so that's essentially we're really trying to help focus and drill down into what it is that this emerging market is looking for. And that's essentially why, I've come to work and to really help the team understand those needs. And we can really figure out the best way forward for all of them. In terms of, the automation, the analytics, and, patient communications, all those things become very important. Back to the jobs for a moment. If you have, a COO, if you have a director of operations or whatever department, they're going to be focusing a lot in the data, right? So you're not going to have a lot of that in the solo practice. It's a lot of times a part-time job for someone. They're wearing several hats. And so with that person that's going to be sitting and looking through data, they have to have that data concise. They're not only responsible for helping those people in the practices do their thing and shoring up that new central billing office and, all those things, but they're also having to now report to the owners of the practice. And when you get into PE firms, you're going to have boards. When you get into, your executive suite, you're going to have to also brief them as well. And so needing that data concise and available to you is very important. And so that's essentially what we're trying to tackle here with a lot of what we're doing at Dental Intel right now. In terms of patient communication, it's really important to have standard operating procedures when it comes to this. Everything from patient acquisition, from registering patients, getting them scheduled, getting them back in the office, all those things require a lot of coordination. And that is also a huge focus of ours, is helping to make sure that the DSO is operating in a very strong capacity that way, that people aren't doing random things and trying new things and hoping for the best, that there's a little more science to it and a little bit more, cut out for the entire organization where possible, and really enabling everybody from that director and executive level all the way down to the people working the front lines, getting the patients in the practice and actually getting them treated.
I like that. I think I'll like share back what I think I heard. When we're looking at this, what I heard from you is, as a private practice, you typically have more of like jack of all trades types individuals, like your office manager's wearing a lot of different hats, or an administrator, and everyone's kind of pitching in. But as a group scales, and I think this is probably common with any business, but as a dental group scales, all of a sudden a lot of jobs become increasingly specialized. So then the solutions, so both the analytics, the automations, and the communication platforms that we're providing for each of those roles all of a sudden becomes more and more specialized to what they're trying to do. So if I'm hearing you right, as we're watching this trend happening, we're recognizing that about their roles and saying, okay, well, at a private practice, maybe, one of the things I know we're going to talk about has to do with the way that we manage our accounts receivable. So, maybe that's an example where, maybe at a solo level, we can just look at a simple collections chart for insurance and a collections chart for patient balances, and that's going to be good enough. But once we start to apply volume to that, instead of it just being like $1 million that we're managing, it's like $40 million that we're trying to manage, then processes that worked well at like a small level, like a jack of all trades, they break. And so we have to reapproach those and consider, how can we use software in our situation? How can we use software to really help these individuals, right? There's things they're doing every single day that we can automate. There's things that they're looking every day that we can get in front of them. And And yeah, I like the direction you're going. So tell me, Elliott, how is Dental Intel trying to address a lot of those needs that we're seeing with DSOs?
Great question. First of all is visibility, right? Making everything visible that is just simply not visible to you. We've got a lot of practices using dental intelligence there at the office. When you start to implement that also at the DSO level, it's going to help you really understand, again, what's needing your attention. What are the opportunities, right? You can spend a lot of time going through each and every practice, sitting with them. And at the end of the day, maybe you get through a few of them. And what if you have 15, 20 practices? You don't have the time in the day. There's not enough time in the day to do that. And so where dental intelligence is really trying to help understand what that is, or what those needs are, is first of all, understanding what it is that those DSOs need. So those DSOs, they need to understand very specific things out of all that data, right? So making sure that we understand what that looks like and understand that, hey, look, there are things at this level that you're not going to, like you said, you're not going to have to worry so much in the practice as a solo. For instance, where can we improve? And we can bring all kinds of things to them. Hey, look, treatment case acceptance is an issue here in general across the organization. Or, maybe there's an opportunity here for us to improve retention rates, right? And to getting those patients back in the office. If I can see those and call out specifically those areas, I don't have to look through all the data. I was recently at a conference where it was mentioned where, more data is worse than none sometimes.
Yeah.
Too much data can be a problem. And there's so much to look at, especially when you're looking at the DSO, they're looking back at you and let's say you're the director of operations. That's a lot of pressure on you, right?
It is. Yeah.
I mean, I can focus on a lot of things and never move the needle. What are things I need to focus on? So that's first of all, we want to make sure is we're providing that insight to you. And with that, all the analytics you would need, all those KPIs are going to really help you understand where you can improve, but also which one should I look at, right? So that's the first thing is make it visible.
Which I'll comment on that too. Like as I'm listening to you, I'm like visualizing some alternatives, So if I have to go pull a bunch of the reports out, aggregate them, and then I have to like sift through, that's what you're saying, right? Like that's so time consuming. I don't want, if I'm scaling a DSO, I don't want to have this army of people that are spending a good chunk of their time just sifting through data. Like ideally, I would want them, just like you said, to be able to get to like what is actually going to move the needle in our favor and focus most of their time on changing behaviors and improving the business and working on the business, as opposed to working on figuring out what we can even be improving. So I love that direction.
Right. And I'll even add to that too, with all that, having to jump into every single practice management system, with having to jump into each location's data, even if they are the same, they're different installations. It's hard to understand all that without having to go through every single one of them. We actually will help bring that information to you in a way that's normalized, that you don't have to worry about, am I doing this by procedure date versus entry date versus something else? We can help bring and standardize that information to you so you don't have to go looking for it. And now you can focus not on getting the information out, but looking and reviewing that information, right? So automating some of that part is really going to be key for those DSOs that simply don't have the time.
Now we've been focusing heavily on like the analytics. Is there anything else with like communication or scheduling that on a global level can help improve a lot of the operations that we're focused on?
Certainly, yeah. So that's just making the information available to you now, and how do we act on it? How do we carry out those actions? And so with that, our engagement platform, for instance, our engagement platform allows you to implement standard forms for registration, making sure that those patients are ready before they come into practice. And when they do have to be when they are a walk-in or something like that, we also have that solution as well. But ultimately, again, helping you get that standard operating procedure in place to say, look, for any given patient, I have this information already at the ready so that we're not causing pain for the dental assistant that has to review their medications, or we're not going to provide, issues for that person on the billing team where they don't have the right insurance information. That's super important. What you do early on is so important all the way through. So that engagement platform really helps you, first of all, to get the patient ready for that appointment. And readiness doesn't just come with understanding, who Steve is, right? We have to understand who Steve is, but what about Steve for the rest of the practice as well? So all those details are super important. We can allow you to build standard forms across all of your locations so that you're not missing it in one location versus another, wasting all your time having to create duplicates of everything only to have well, shoot, I misspelled it over here. And now I got to go fix it in that location after someone's already seen that embarrassing error, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so our engagement platform helps with that, getting the patients back in the chairs, right? That automation to say, hey, look, I want patients to come in that are due for these treatments. You can run campaigns around those things and say, look, this is exactly what I want the system to do. It just does it. So it seeks out all those patients that have to come back in, and they will come back, right? It's magic. It works that way. You know, we provide those solutions again to help the upper levels of the DSO recognize the strengths of what their people can really do, and this is how they go about doing that with payments, right? So with payments specifically, we are recent. You know, I'm going to get into this a little bit more down the line here, but providing the ability to take payments, take that patient payment right at the time of service. We know that if the patient leaves the practice without paying that patient portion, the likelihood of you collecting that money as that patient walks out the door, it goes down, goes down significantly. And so with that, being able to capture that payment at time of service and you know, not miss that opportunity. And then also to have it convenient to where they can come back and that same card is still there. You don't have to, you know, fish out your wallet and do all those things as I'm trying to get at the door back to work, right? Because I came on my lunch break or something. So allowing for those types of payment systems as well to be in place on top of, you know, looking at our accounts receivable, for instance, now. I can also now start collecting from those payments, collecting from those patients rather. And having all those things in place to where it's one cohesive system is really what makes it so powerful, right? You don't have to worry that you don't have the capability in that solution. It provides everything you need.
Now I'm gonna like drill. I'm gonna move into the next question, but then drill a little bit harder on the payments one. So the next question I've got is what's new in the software for DSOs? And you know, this one maybe is relevant for any private practice or DSO, but let's go to payments. So already, you know, in a practice, I'm just like picturing myself going through, they can already like swipe a card and collect a payment on the spot. So what is it that Dental Intel's doing to try to make it even easier for a patient to pay?
Great question. We've actually got a new solution that's just rolling out now. That solution is allowing us for you to have, again, well, here, there's some strengths we have as offering it from the solution that we do. I'll go with more of the benefits of the most recent and then drill back into some of the benefits that we have of just having that single solution. More recently, though, we've got now a flat rate pricing. So that makes it a lot less complicated for the DSO. Now they only have to worry about
just from a budget forecast perspective.
Budget forecast, right? Because again, you owe a lot to your executives and your board or whoever else is involved. And so with that, it's much easier to forecast what your expenses are going to be. When that CFO comes in the room and asks, hey, what's going on here in these situations, you can tell them, hey, look, yeah, these fixed costs here, they're already taken care of. Let's talk about this. And it's no longer even an issue where you have to deal with that. Now that new solution and piggybacking off of our engagement solution specifically, now you can start to see where there's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of synergy between the ability to run campaigns and also collect from your patients. And so that same strength now can be used and leveraged in that system we've already built out for the engagement platform. Some beyond that, just some other regular benefits we bring to the table for DSOs with a payment solution like this. You have one payment solution. I've watched people as they go through and try to look at their day sheets and things like that and try to compare that to their banks, reconciling, right? I've got to reconcile for every single processor that I have. What if I only have one? What if I had one processor, I had one list of deposits and one place to go look at all those payments? Doesn't that simplify it? Doesn't that make it easier? So I don't have to worry about now that people aren't reconciling every day. And that, you know, again, shoot, I forgot my credentials now for that one processor. I got to go reset my password again. All those things start to come into play now. So all those things together is really going to help us with our payment solutions. Bring that into our engagement platform makes it that much more powerful here, kind of piggybacking off what we already have there for the patient communications. So that's essentially where we're going with our payments right now.
Cool.
And that's rolling out as we speak.
Which is great. So, and if I hear you right too, you're mentioning the engagement solution. If I hear you right, obviously we can swipe cards, but then I can also like just pay from my phone, right? So as a patient, the engagement platform allows the practice to send me a message. I can just click on it and make the payment right there. And then something that you didn't mention, I'm just gonna like float it out there too, that I think is personally really cool, is the ability to keep a card on file. So as a patient, the practice can also just say, hey, like, you want to just pay with card ending in 1000 or whatever. and then just go. Like, I don't even have to like tap or swipe a card at that point. So I agree, like the more efficient that becomes. And if you look across all platforms, like all companies and industries, making that payment process as seamless as possible really does improve conversion. So as much as we can improve that in dentistry, that's going to help get people coming back and having a great experience with us.
Can I mention one more thing?
Sure.
Actually, it's in terms of it's in the same vein as payments, but not really. It's somewhat different.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's another extension we built in our engagement platform, which is an integration to WiseTech.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to offering care
credit.
Care credit, thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to offering care credit, we're also offering another way for patients to extend their payments if they need to as well.
Yeah.
So again, providing that opportunity for us to present the treatment case, and then all the flexibility that comes with allowing the patient to commit to that treatment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the patient doesn't go through the treatment simply because, wow, that's a lot of money. I can't afford that right now. So what if in that same case presentation, they have all the options laid out in front of them?
Mm-hmm.
They have to go to the desk or something like that, look at different forms and do all that research on their own. You can actually apply right there for a WiseTech payment plan, and it's all taken care of for you right there.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing for that flexibility at the time of that case presentation now allows you to also convert a lot of that treatment plan as well.
Mm-hmm.
So giving that patient every opportunity now to every opportunity to accept that treatment and improve their health. So that's another thing that we've done as well recently.
Sweet. So I'm going to jump into the next one, and I'll summarize. So what I heard so far, Elliott, like what exists now for DSOs that's super helpful. And where I want to go is like, hey, what's coming up? I want some like teasers here. But what exists now, like analytic solution that gets not just data in front of you, but actionable data in front of you. You highlighted that in a great way. A communications and engagement platform that includes online scheduling and communication and campaigns and consistent digital forms that write back, all of those things. And then payments, we just barely talked through, are awesome things that exist right now that can dramatically help with the DSO. So spend a few minutes here. What are some things that are coming up at Dental Intel that I think are exciting for DSOs? Like what can we look forward to?
Okay, remember when I talked about bringing that information to the DSO in a way that they needed it?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a new feature actually that's in beta right now.
Sweet.
And that is essentially an AR dashboard specifically for DSOs, allowing you to quickly compare from location to location in an interactive way to look at that data.
Mm-hmm.
So that if I wanted to see across, all these 20 locations or 30 locations, you're looking at it by percentage to see, who in over 90 needs my help more than somebody else. So a quick comparison to say, this is where I'm needed right now. I know I've got these other locations here, but there is a 30% over 90 situation here in this location. I'm going to focus right here. If I want to see what the opportunity is, I can quickly switch over now to a dollar amount, and I can see what the dollar amount is in that over 90 bucket. So that's my opportunity now, right? If I wanted to see now what the breakdown was between, what is still outstanding to insurance versus what can be collected from the patient, I can do that as well. So again, that interactive dashboard that allows for more dimensions of that same data, where I don't have to go anywhere else for it now. And that's what's in beta right now. We are going to start focusing a lot.
Which that's way cool, by the way, to just get it all into one place.
Yeah, so that specific DSO dashboard, that's going to be a thing for us going forward. Looking for other things we can bring to you and have that side-by-side comparisons to your different locations in an interactive way, because we do have a DSO reporting platform right now that helps to give you a lot of really great information across those locations. This is a more interactive way now on top of that, to be able to look at that data and to be able to make your discovery and stuff like that right there.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to highlight? What else is coming up?
There's a lot,
because that is like very exciting. I'm super stoked on that.
Yeah, we're all super excited for that, and a lot of the things that are coming out I won't get into today because we're probably too far out. But yeah, we certainly have a lot more in that space that we're planning on for 2023. Beyond that too, if we're looking at back in our engagement solution, for instance, we're looking at, like I said before, we're looking at ways to automate some of those experiences on top of what we already had today. So that's something else we're currently working on as well. I won't get into the details, but just expect some exciting things again this next year for just a lot of those opportunities to automate even down into our engagement processes to really help the operations folks get those patients in and take care of them.
Yeah, I think you highlighted that well. Like coming back to the AR Clinic Compare, like we have had such a drive as a company to get data to action as quickly as possible. And I think that's a good hint. I wish we could share more, but I think that's good enough. That is where we're going with our global reports for DSOs. We're going to start there with accounts receivable, and you can imagine where we're going to go as we move into other elements of reporting within the practice, trying to make sure that on a global level we can see what's going on, but then actually get to action and review with teams in the simplest, cleanest way. So
I will give you
some
one
big
hint.
things coming.
I
Yeah.
will give you one hint. One of my big focuses this next year is going to be for personalization. So
Hey, now we're
not a
talking.
particular feature.
Now we're
right here,
talking.
but just imagine that area where it's like, okay, what is important to me? That's going to be super important as we go forward with the portfolio that we're working on right now. So personalization is going to be really big for this next year. And I can also say too that we're really looking at even a lot of the goals management, because I know there's a lot of things we can do with the team. Coming back from the conference there at Dykema this year, they talked a lot about helping your staff grow, not just in their performance, but just even in their careers. And it's hard to get and maintain talent if you invest into those people on your team, not just for the short term to help you collect more from the patients or do more production or something like that, but what if I wanted to try something else and have a personal stretch goal or something like that? Just there's so many things we can get into. And so that's going to be a heavy focus as well. It's just on helping your teams grow as well. So I think you actually have a question about that, but
yeah. So the last question, we always end with the same question, and that's Elliott. What does growth in dentistry mean to you?
Yeah, growth in dentistry for me is not just on one single bottom line or any particular role. It's really growth at every level. So if you look at it from somebody working at the front desk, somebody that is trying to coordinate operations across 20 locations, the patient that's sitting in your chair, right? It goes on every single level. And when we're focusing on the DSO segment specifically, we got to keep that in mind so that we're allowing for everybody to grow at every single level. And I think that's where you really get the growth. It's growth in capability for process, for operations. It's growth in accessibility for the patient to care that they desperately need. It's growth in individuals' careers, for those dentists to really get in and do what they want to do, right? If they want to go the business route, awesome. If they want to stay in the roles that they are now, we've got to help those DSOs so that those dentists can really focus on what they want to do and grow where they want to. So again, growth at every level is really where growth in dentistry means a lot to me.
I love that. Well, this has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Would like to thank Elliott Walker for joining us today. Would also like to share a big shout out to our marketing team for working and producing on these week after week. I am Steve Jensen, and keep growing.